Today on SED TV, I'll show you 2 different gathering methods I like to use. Before you head over to your sewing machine, take your skirt piece. As you can see, I've sewn the side seams on my skirt. Find your center front and center back. You can either mark it using a fabric pen or clipping or pinning it right there. This will make it easy to distribute your gathers evenly once you are done. Now that you're at your machine, you'll want to set the stitch length to the longest your machine has. Mine goes up to 5. So there it is at 5. And you'll want to adjust the tension, which is this little knob up here on mine, to about a 7, which mine goes all the way up to a 9, but typically if I make it go all the way up, then it'll make the gathers way too tight, making it just a little bit harder to ungather to get to the size you need. So I use the 7 on the tension knob and 5 for the stitch length. When you get started, your first row will be 1/2 inch from the edge. Make sure you backstitch here at the beginning, but do not backstitch once you get all the way around. You only want one of the sides secured. Now that you've reached the other side, when you remove the needle and pull the thread, make sure you leave a good amount of the thread out so that you have something to work with. Now you have 2 options. So I am showing you the 2-row basting stitch gathering method, but at this point you could choose to just have 1 row of gathering stitches. The only problem there is, since it is just 1 row, if that was to pop, you'd have to come back and redo that again. Doing 2 rows gives you that extra security that if one of those pops, you still have the other one holding it in place. With that said, my second row will be stitched at 3/8 of an inch away from the edge of my fabric. Once again, make sure you pull out enough thread to work with when you have finished making your gathers. Now that I've got my gathering stitches done, I'll measure my bodice waistline and my skirt waistline so that I can determine how much wider or how much narrower I need to make my skirt piece. And I will do that by either just pulling gently on my bobbin thread, which in my case is white, and making the gathers tighter, or I'll just leave my bobbin thread alone and spread the gathers out like so to make my skirt a little bit wider. Depending on how tightly my skirt gathered and the size of my bodice waist is how large I'll make my skirt piece. Once you have evenly distributed, then your gathering is done and you're ready to attach your skirt to your bodice. The second method requires a serger. Before you adjust the settings on your serger, you'll want to make sure that you have a relatively long thread tail. This will help you later on when it's time to adjust your gathers. The first setting you'll want to change is your differential feed. Mine is set to 1, so I will bump it all the way up to 2. The next two settings you'll want to change are your left and right needle. I will move my left needle to 9 and right to 7. The loopers stay the same. Mine are currently at a 4. Now that you've adjusted your serger, you're ready to start your gathers. Once I reach the end of my skirt, I will adjust the settings back to normal, which in my case, I use 4s straight across, and the differential feed back to a 1, so that I can stitch another thread tail that will give me more room to adjust the gathers. And just like that, I have perfectly even gathers. So now measure your bodice waist and compare it to the skirt waist. If you need to adjust it, when you're pulling the gathers apart, just make sure you do it gently, and this takes a little bit of time, but if you do it gently and slowly, nothing will pop and you'll have beautiful, beautiful gathers. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. See you next time.